Okay, good evening, class. Now, what we are actually going to do is we are actually going to continue with what when we were discussing about the tools. So we will continue in this same in this lecture also. We will start. We will continue with all the research tools that you can use for your research work and your project. Like we did discuss about in our previous class about SWOT, about steeple, about pestle, most, ABCD analysis, Cato, benchmarking. We did talk about it. So we will continue. We will talk about 5Y analysis. Okay. Now 5Y analysis. It was Sakichi Toyoda, sorry, who was the Japanese industrialist, inventor, and founder of Toyota Industries, who developed this technique in 1930s, which became popular in 1970s. And the good thing about it is Toyota still uses it to solve problems today. Okay, so the 5 why method is basically when you ask the question why now multiple number of times till you get past all the symptoms of a problem and you come down to the root cause. What exactly is the root cause? So there are basically three key elements to the effective use of 5 whys technique. Three, which is there, the most three important things is where accurate and complete statement of the problems, asking the right questions you need to ask, and while answering the questions there has to be complete honesty in answering the questions. Now other three things, there is also one fourth factor, which is the determination. As when you as a researcher, your determination to get down to the bottom of the problem and trying to resolve it. Okay, so how would you exactly use the 5 whys? First is to assemble a team where you should gather with people who are familiar with the problem, with the exact specification of the problem, and and the process that you're trying to fix it, where the problem lies. So you can include someone to act as a facilitator who can keep the team actually focused on identifying countermeasures, effective countermeasures. And once that is done, you need to collect information, all the information that you need to understand the problem. So the next step that comes up is where we talk of defining the problem. So if possible, observe the problem in action. Observe it, then discuss it with your team members, and then write a clear and brief problem statement which everyone on the team agrees upon. Say, for instance, which says that team A is not meeting its response time targets, or why sales are reducing. So these are specific questions. So start with a clear problem and objectives. For example, when working in teams, it's easy to assume that everyone is working on the same problem. We actually think of it, but this isn't always the case because there can be multiple problems, and which can result in actually teams working in solving two different problems. So it can happen. So the third step that is coming up is ask your first five questions. Once you have spent enough time in preparing, then ask your first question. Ask your team. First thing is why the problem is occurring. Why? For example, if you take this question, the problem statement, why is not team A meeting its response time targets? So you need to search for answers which are backed by which are grounded in fact. There has to be some facts. There must be a lot of things that have actually happened, but don't guess at what might have happened. Not guess. You should not guess. Instead of, what you should do is you should give a quick instead of giving a quick answer, you should brainstorm which answers will give the most value. And each questions that you ask, it depends on its predecessor, the previous question that you ask. The question that you ask depends on the previous question that you asked. So it's all the questions are interlinked, which would actually help you to give some meaningful answers. So the rule of thumb here is to go on asking questions till you found a potential root cause. So when we say five whys, actually it should be at least five questions, or it could be less, which is enough to solve the most common problems. But one should not limit themselves to only five questions. You can go on asking. You have the flexibility. So instead, keep asking questions until you can't. There's no scope for you to ask anymore. So your team members may come up with one obvious reason why, or several possible reasons. That could be one, or that could be multiple. So what you have to do is you have to record their answers briefly and clearly in phrases, and not just single words or lengthy statements. And then write all their answers down besides your problem statement. So, for example, saying instead of saying volume of calls is too high, that is better than when you have something which is called overloaded. It should be precise. What you're writing should be easy to understand, simple words, and that's much better. You can have it in written lengthy. The answers could be in rather not in short form. It could be expanded. So avoid answering questions that you are unsure of. Why? Because you'll most likely end up with a very bad root cause. That can happen. If you do not know the answer, don't give your answer just based on your guesses. Okay, so these are the five whys example. When you have a single lane, one problem, our client is refusing to pay for leaflets we printed for them. So that's how the question goes. Delivery was late, so the leaflets couldn't be used. So the job took longer than we expected. Why was the delivery late? Because the job took longer time. And why was it longer? Because ran out of printer ink. Why is it? The ink was all used on a large last minute order. And why did it happen? We didn't have enough ink in stock and couldn't order new supplies in time. So this is basically your problem. And then from there, the countermeasure is find an ink supplier who can deliver at short notice so that we can continue to minimize inventory, reduce waste, and respond to customer demand. Okay. This is the example of five whys example for multiple lanes. Where the problem, for example, same thing, our client is refusing to pay for leaflets we printed for them. Why? The delivery was late, so the leaflets couldn't be used. Why? There could be reason. There could be reason, multiple reasons. Then, the job took longer than we expected. You can have reasons, multiple reasons. Again, for each of these steps, same question that we have, you can have multiple reasons. This can lead to this, and from here you can have this, which again comes to this. So, multiple lanes. And the same thing, the same measure that comes up here. So looking into all this, come up with the best measures. So if you see the Titanic, right? Sinking of Titanic, you can use the five whys technique to actually solve the problem. You can come down to the main problem. Why did the Titanic sink? This is a very good example. Okay. After that, what comes up is address the root cause or causes. So once the root cause gets identified, you need to discuss and agree on what should be the countermeasures that you can take, which would help in preventing the problem from recurring again. Once that is there, then you have to actually monitor your measures to have to see how effectively the countermeasures that you have you've undertaken will eliminate or minimize the initial problem. If needed, you may have to amend the measures that you've taken or replace them entirely. So if that happens, if you have to amend, make some rectification in the measures or change it, then it's always a good idea to repeat the entire process once again to ensure yourself that you've identified the correct root cause. It's better always to do it. So, what are the key points that we have for FiveY analysis? It's a simple, effective tool for which uncovers the root of a problem. You can use it in troubleshooting, problem solving, quality improvement initiatives. Start with the problem and ask why it is occurring. And make sure that your answer is grounded in fact, that there is fact for your answer. And then ask the question again. Whatever answer is there, there has to be fact. It should be fact based, and then start answering. So, asking the next question, and you continue this process until you reach the root cause of the problem, where you can identify a countermeasure which will prevent it from recurring. Okay, only then it is possible. When you're doing this, so you have to keep it in mind that in that this questioning process is best suited for to simple or moderately difficult question problems. Complex problems may benefit from a more detailed approach. Five whys may not be the right or so the appropriate technique. Although, like if you use five why, it will give you some useful insights, but it may not be the right technique. So if you see, these are this is a link which actually talks about more of five why, the examples, and how you analyze, and other everything related to FiveY analysis, more details. Okay, the next topic that we have is next tool is fishbone analysis. Diagrams, also called Ishikawa diagrams or cause and effect diagrams. This was created by Professor Ishikawa in 1960s as a quality control tool. So it's a tool which actually is used to identify and illustrate the causes for a specific event. Now, what are the probable causes? They are listed out through brainstorming as well as mind mapping technique to identify a problem's root cause. Now, the diagram, the diagram is actually getting the name of fishbone analysis diagram because of the branches that comes out of the main issue. It looks in a way as if it looks very much like that of a side view of a fish skeleton. But the process can be applied to mostly to mind also to most mind map layouts. This business analysis technique, it helps you to actually very quickly explore, visualize, and gather data about the potential causes of the problem. It shows the relationships between causes by nature of sub branching, one factor leading to another, so it goes on till you get your right answer. So, cause and effect diagram. See, this is the effect, the final effect. This is the main problem. And when we start checking out, we see the different problems, that factors which has caused all these problems, which has led to this problem. So, it looks like a fishbone. So, what are the steps that you have in this cause and effect analysis that we have? There are basically 4 steps. First is to identify the problem. Problems are basically the effect. The effect that we see is this is the problem, the effect. Final effect is the problem. So one has to be very clear and specific as you can about the problem. Be very specific with your problem. Say, for instance, it is an example where we say taste of coffee is bad, or sales of a particular good A have reduced. Customer feedback on after sales service is poor. So while these are some of the examples, while you're defining the problem, you have to be clear, very much clear about it, that it should not be defined as a solution. As a solution, say for example, like we want to increase the sales by 10%. Coffee should be more strong and flavored. Customers should rate us 5 out of 7. Your problem statement should not look as if it's a solution. It should be a problem. So effect or the problem is written at the mouth of the fish, as we said. So for an example, when you identify the problem, owner of a coffee shop, he identifies that coffee made by his shop are not tasty. Coffee made by the shop is not tasty. So that's the problem. Bad coffee. Effect. Final result that you have, the problem is your effect. So the second step that comes up is work out the major factors in that is involved. So brainstorm and agree on the major categories of causes of the problem. It is which is written as branches from the main arrow, which I had shown you. And major categories, it varies according to the problem, the effect. A lot of templates have been available online, which are used to help start listing down the main categories. So this is the example. So categories of fishbone diagrams in marketing, there are 5 M's: machine, method, material, measurement, manpower. For marketing, there are 8 P's: product, place, price, promotion, process, people, performance, physical evidence. For service, there are 5 S: surrounding supply, system, skills, synchronization. So these are some of the common effects for different types of problems that we have. So these are categories of different types of fishbone diagram. So in our example which we said of bad coffee, so when we work out the major factors, so what happens is the owner identifies the factors, which is people, procedures, material, and equipment, and actually just starts listing it. Okay, which all these factors have led to bad coffee. Okay, then comes up the third step, which is identify the possible causes for each of these factors. This is again where we have brainstorming happens for each main category, where you think where we need to think of as many as possible the causes that may have affected that factor, which is say for your instance, why does this happen? So as each idea is given, what happens, the facilitator writes down the causal factor as a branch of that category. Say for instance, if you take up the procedures, what are the factors? Start noting down. Again, people, then material, then equipment. So you can actually keep asking, why does this happen, about each of these factors, each of these causes that you have, right? What about each? We take up each factor and what are the causes and why does this happen? So write down all these sub causes which is branching off from the main factor or main cause, and continue to ask why, to go more and more deep into generate deeper levels of causes, and you can continue organizing them under different related causes and categories, which will help you to identify and then address the root causes for preventing future problems. Now comes up the third step. That's where we are talking of identify the possible causes that we said. So for each of the this is with regards to the example. So for each of the factors that the coffee shop owner has identified, the owner brainstorms possible causes for the problems and adds these to his diagram. See, main problem is factors is procedure, people, material, and equipment. Now, in the procedure, what is there? Too many grounds. Why? Because wrong filter size. Too much coffee. Too much water was there. Why? Because of no training. For people, no training and salary. It's not given properly. That's why they didn't work. Materials could be bad cream. Why? Because it's outdated. Bad sugar, another problem, because the packet is wet. With the equipment, the cups that is given is dirty cups, and the other thing that comes up is the coffee, it was not hot enough. Why? Because the warmer was not working. So from the main factors, you see all other sub factors or sub causes coming up, and that's how you get to the root of the problem. So then you start analyzing your diagram. When all the possible causes are identified, then the next step is to investigate the problems that may support the solutions that have the most effective impact on the business. Look into those problems, which are the most important problems that is there, and which would help in coming out with the best solution, which would impact the entire business. Now, tools like FiveHouse also may prove helpful here. So rank the cause from the most important to the least important. which can be done based on a team's experience or by running impact analysis, and then make action plan and follow up follow up action. So this is where it comes up. This is the entire picture from this analysis. So what happens? The owner analyzes his diagram and identify the solutions to the problem, giving training to workers, repairing and buying equipments, buying quality ingredients, and paying relevant salaries for workers. Now, what happens up here is when we say giving training to workers, so the training problem is solved, paying relevant salaries, so salary problem is solved, buying quality ingredients, so material problem is solved, and and repairing and buying equipment, so the equipment problem is solved, right? So here when you have proper training, this problem doesn't come. Using the right materials, the problem doesn't come. Okay, so use cases for the fishbone diagram, right? uh, to analyze a problem statement, you can do that. To brainstorm the causes of the problem, to analyze a new design, for process improvement, for quality improvement. So these are the cases where you can use fishbone diagram. Now, what are the disadvantages that we have for fishbone diagram is the main categories may be known in advance. It must be what are the main categories that you should know in advance. And if a particular category is left out, it limits the thinking. Now there are many ideas, and if there are many ideas and ideas and subcategories, that can make the diagram very much complex. And sometimes it's difficult to determine the subordinate relationship between the sub factors. May be difficult. It does not evaluate the relative importance of ideas, how important is one idea as compared to the others. It does not do so. And the diagram cannot substitute for numerical data. Whenever you have some numerical data, it is not possible to use a fishbone analysis. Okay, so these are some of the important links that we have for fishbone analysis, which you get to know more about it. The next the next tool that we have is a questioning technique, which is it's a key technique which is used to gain more information, more insight about a particular situation or about a particular problem. Now, what happens is questions can define problems well, and it can lead to a clear vision of the issues involved. Proper, if you have the right kind of question, that can actually help in defining what exactly your problem is. And once you have the right problems, that helps you to have a better vision, a better clear idea of the issues that you need to that is involved and how what has to be solved. So asking the right question will help you in finding your way through a particular problem. You can locate the right or correct solutions. Questions can also be used as a tool to narrow down and actually identify the key elements of a particular situation. What exactly are the main factors for a particular situation that has resulted in that situation, which would actually help you in deep analysis of the situation. And a solution can be reached by asking questions like, say, what, why, who, where, when, how. What, when we say it's these category of questions, it broadly states the situation or the problem. Why actually it forces us to consider the significance of the problem and also the nature of the response. It also helps us to go for a deep analysis of the problem, which is actually essential to get for getting the root causes. How, where, who, and when. So these category of questions is actually designed to both deepen and broaden the analysis. When you combine all of these in a question checklist, so they become both useful both as a tool for analyzing and solving problems, as well as it helps for coming up with an action plan. So some of the tips that comes up here is for questioning technique. It's used effectively to fill in all the information that is missing, which may have come up after your preliminary study. When you do a preliminary study, some information may be missing, which can be filled up. You can get those information through questioning technique. Now, for the analysis to be effective, it is advisable to collect answers along with evidence. You cannot just go on saying this, we know this is how, but where is the evidence? How do you know this? So all your answers has to be packed with evidence. So we see the diagram that we have what, why, how, where, who, when. Yeah, what exactly and the what exactly do I want to achieve? What are the facts? What would happen if no decision was made or solution found? What do I need in order to find a solution? When we say why, these are the different types of solutions, the questions that you have can actually say, why do I want to achieve a solution? Why did the problem or opportunity arise? Why do I need to find a solution or way forward at all? So ask five whys here. How? How will the situation be different? How relevant is the information I'm gathering? How can I find out more? How can I involve relevant people? Where? Where did the issue arise? Where does it impact? Is the where important? If so, why? Who? Who am I trying to please? Who cares about this information? Who's affected? Who is involved? Could be information, help, or action. Who needs to be informed? When? When did the issue arise? When do we need to act? By when must it be resolved? So this table actually shows the structure of the question checklist, the different types of questions that you can ask under each of these broad category. And these are some of the examples. Yes. So this helps you, and this will be a guideline for you to develop your questions. Also, that you may ask for your research problem or the opportunities. So, what are the types of questions that can come up? So, basically, when we talk questions can be categorized. There are five different types of questions. Questions can be of five different types. First is strategic questions, where we talk of these are some of the examples under each of these categories. Where are we trying to get to? What's stopping us there? What impact is this having on the strategy? Analytical question: where's the problem coming from? Why are the things the way they are? What events or decisions have led us to this point? Third, innovative questions: what could we do to solve this problem? If that's not possible, what else could we do? What would an expert in this area try when developing a solution? Fourth category is implicative question, and the different types that we have. If we take these actions, what other problems might they cause? What unexpected benefits could this solution bring? What impact could this solution have on the other areas of business? Tactical questions: what steps need to be taken to deliver this solution? Who needs to be involved in this solution? What can we do right now to get this started? So these are the examples that different types of questions that you can ask for each category. Okay, so what are the characteristics of a good question? Ask reflective question, ask focused questions. It should focus on the problem and reflective, where people can actually think. You're asking people to reflect on that situation to give that answer. So an effective question are basically simple, they are concise and easy to understand. And they're also intentionally provocative in a positive way, to prompt certain group to think, to imagine, to reflect and challenge any of their pre-existing assumptions, beliefs, their conventional thinking. So you're forcing them to think. So you see, these are some of the links that you have for the questioning technique that we have. Okay, the next topic, the next tool that we have is Scamper technique. Scamper it's an acronym, and each of these letters that you see stands for one of thinking technique. For each of these letters are a technique by itself. It's a thinking technique. S stands for substitute, C for combine, A for adapt, M for modify, P is put to another use, E for eliminate, R for reverse. Okay, this is it. So basically, Scamper is a collection of all these various techniques, and you can actually use one, you can use all of them, you can use more than one to find solutions to your problems. And it's also possible to jump from one technique to another. You can do that. All these techniques. It's this the Scamper technique is more focused on the process of finding out unusual and creative solutions to problems. Unusual solutions which are unusual and some creative, but they can also be used to come up with some innovative ideas and the goal of improving a product or a service. So the 7 Scamper techniques that we have, that we just said. So a little more in details. Substitute, S for substitute. You find a part of your concept, product, service, processes that you could replace with another to see whether it will bring in the result in improvements, such as efficiency, for example, efficiency gains. It will also help you to test which alternative works better, like a trial and error process. Okay. Combine, like most of the time you don't have to come up with something extremely new, but the solutions actually already which is existing. So one idea may not work alone, so you combine several ideas, process, products into one efficient output. It can happen. Adapt. Adapt is where you have the right solution to your product, to your problem, but you don't know it. So what happens is sometimes an idea that worked to which is used to solve a problem, you can use that to solve a different problem. You can use this. Modify. Modify, that's it's an important aspect of your situation or problem. So for example, by magnifying, by exaggerating them, and see whether it can give you a new insight or whether it can add new value, which would help you to identify which part of your process or concepts is the most significant. Put to another use. Put to another use, it's where you're putting an existing idea or concept to another use. It's very much similar to adapt. Say, using it differently than it was originally intended to. Eliminate. Eliminate, it's related basically when we talk about lean or Six Sigma uh, process. It's about eliminating all the inefficient processes with the goal of streamlining them. And reverse is the actually where the orientation or direction, it's related with the orientation or the direction of a process and product. So you do things the other way around, completely against the original purpose, right? So okay, sometimes what happens is when you reverse the way a product is used, it'll help you to look into things from a different perspective. And you see, for each of these types, I've given you examples, so you can actually go through it. Okay, now this is exactly the Scamper method that I just said. So substitute, C for combine. Substitute is replace a part of your product, service, or process with another. Combine is combine ideas, processes, or products into one efficient output. Adapt an existing idea that may have worked before to solve a problem. M, that is modify an aspect of your situation or problem, right? P, that is put to another use, put current processes or products that were intended for a specific purpose to another use. Eliminate or simply a process or idea to get or improve upon it, where you improve upon it, but you can also identify the most important aspect. Reverse are where it's basically where you are actually, it's related with the direction of the process or product, doing things in a different way. Okay, so these are again the links for the Scamper process. If you see this will, if you go through it, it will help you in coming up with getting to know more about it. Okay. Okay. And these are the references that you can actually go through to get a better idea of the various processes. Okay. Right. So that's all that we have out here. And we will see you in the next class.